Hey, Dr. Jon Finn here. Welcome to the Habit Mechanic podcast. Right now, you can get my new best-selling book, Train Your Brain for the AI Revolution, at tougherminds.co.uk. The digital book, audiobook, and physical book are all available at a special price that you won't find anywhere else.
If you want to fulfill your potential or help other people fulfill their potential so you can feel great and get the rewards and respect you deserve, then I want to give you a free physical copy of my new best-selling book because you deserve to know the truth. The most important things for fulfilling your potential are not tips, tricks, hacks, therapy, coaching, meditation, breathwork, goal setting, journaling, or finding your why. I know it sounds irrational because we're so used to hearing about using these things to help us fulfill our potential. But these approaches are outdated and ineffective, and they are based on a big lie.
To find out more and get your free physical copy of Dr. Jon Finn's best-selling book, The Habit Mechanic, go to tougherminds.co.uk.
Hello, Habit Mechanics. It's Dr. Jon Finn here. I hope you're having a fantastic week so far. Welcome to a shorter episode of the Habit Mechanic podcast. Remember, you can listen to live episodes of the Habit Mechanic podcast inside the Habit Mechanic University app, where you can ask us questions live and we will answer you during the live streamed podcast. Inside the app, you can also access your Habit Mechanic toolkit. You can also watch our live masterclasses and join our live Change Challenge coaching sessions. You can download the app for free. So we're going to take a deep dive into chapter 17 of the Habit Mechanic book. And yeah, I'm going to hand you over to Andrew Whitelam, who's working with me on this today. And I'll let Andrew set the scene and start asking a few questions.
Yeah, hi, John. Afternoon to you. These sessions are certainly coming thick and fast. So, I think we can be both forgiven for not knowing whether it's Tuesday or Wednesday. But no, in all seriousness, chapter 17, really, really fascinating. Analyze and improve your habits to achieve long-term goals in life and work. And I know you're starting to work with more people specifically to help them do their best work more often. So this is very much in keeping with that and very fitting and opportune that we're looking at this chapter in this Tougher Minds talk, this Habit Mechanic talk, should I say. The chapter starts with an anecdote about probably one of the greatest Olympians of all time, the swimmer, Michael Phelps. Now, he is an American, and if you don't follow swimming, he's got multiple gold medals. He was almost unstoppable. He had a winning streak like no other, as I recall it, and he was really the epitome of a consistently high-performing person. And there was a commercial by his equipment sponsor which showed his preparations, his training, his regular daily grind in preparation for his final Olympics. And the message of that, I think, and certainly the message that you state very clearly in the Habit Mechanic, John, is it's the small things you do every day that will deliver ultimately your major objectives, your strategic goals, your big accomplishments. It's the habits, the tiny habits lead to great things. If you could expand on that, I think that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I think what the Michael Phelps, I think it's Under Armour advertisement shows, is Michael Phelps doing what Anders Ericsson called deliberate practice, or what we call focused practice or high impact work. If you want to do something differently, if you want to do something better, you need to engage in high impact, high charge work, because you've got to, that's what it takes to change your brain. And what Michael Phelps is doing is he's learning how to swim faster, and he's clearly very good at that from the medals that he's won and the records that he's broken. we find ourselves in a world which is where it makes it really hard to condition ourselves to think and do things that help us to be at our best, whether that's good sleep, diet, and exercise habits, good stress management habits. And actually, what we find is that we are mindlessly practicing things that make us, that actually help us to develop worse sleep, diet, and exercise habits, and worse stress management habits, and worse productivity habits. So, what we need to do is, if we want to do something different, we can't just read a book and get some more knowledge and think, well, that's a good idea, that's interesting, or have a coaching session and get a bit more knowledge and have a nice conversation and have great intentions about what we're going to do. We have to be able to practice something very deliberately in order to make change, in order to build new helpful habits. And that's why we need to use what we call our 25-hour brain, which is essentially consistently using our high charge brain state so that we can not just know what we want to do to be at our best more often, we can actually put it into practice consistently. And that's what Michael Phelps is doing. He isn't actually just what we're seeing there, it maybe looks counterintuitive, is that the habits he's created actually allow him to get into that high charge brain state so he can push himself. He isn't just swimming quickly in a comfort zone. He is pushing himself. And we see that in the video where I think he physically throws up at one point. That isn't using what we call his medium charge brain. He's using his high charge brain state.
Yeah, and it's interesting, perhaps sport provides a fascinating microcosm for us all. It doesn't have to be about sport when we talk about performance, of course. Can be business, can be education, life, whichever field you operate in. The takeaway is the same, I think you're saying, Jon. And yeah, it's that working on himself, as you put it, is the lesson to learn, I think. In the book, in chapter 17, you say that the journey to great accomplishment starts with us developing more helpful habits, and for many of us, it's habits, super habits, I think you'd call them, fundamentals. In other words, like sleep, diet, and exercise is often the critical start point for us.
Yeah, I wouldn't call them fundamentals necessarily. We are all different. We are all navigating slightly different challenges. And what super habits are things that we do every day that have a disproportionately positive benefit on our life. So for me, going for a run first thing in the morning is a super habit, not necessarily a fundamental thing. Although I would say doing some form of exercise before you want to do some mentally challenging work is really important. It doesn't have to be going for a run. So in chapter 17, we're coming off the back of the fam story, which is a metaphor for that we're using the iceberg as a metaphor for our lives, essentially, for our future selves. The top of the iceberg is the distant future, and the bottom is today. And ultimately, it's the things that we automate today that will allow us to be at our best in the distant future. And the key thing to automate is building more super habits. And the key thing to de-automate, to get rid of, is your destructive habits, which are things that you think and do every day that have a disproportionately negative impact on your life.
Yeah. Now, to help us achieve that, you introduce in an extremely accessible and gripping and engaging manner, you introduce a very complex analysis of how habits work inside us. This is, if you haven't read The Habit Mechanic, please do. But for anyone who has read it, they'll know it's done in a very engaging and practically understandable way. So it's so illuminating when you read it. You call it the trait habit loop to help us understand how habits operate. Please just take us through that cyclical operation of our habits, if you like.
Yeah, well, there are lots of what I'd call pop psychology habit loops out there, which I've never found made perfect sense to me.
So we created our own. TRAIT is an acronym, and it's playing on the idea that we're taught that we have these traits. Leopard never changes its spots. We've been conditioned to believe that we're very fixed, that our genetics are far more dominant than they actually are. So we can change our habits. And if we understand how they work, then that's going to make it super easy. So the T in TRAIT stands for trigger. So every habit we have starts with a trigger. We get a reminder of what to do. So it might be we see someone, and that's a reminder to do something. And the thing that we do is a routine, which I'll come on to. We might feel hungry. That could be a trigger. Our phone might buzz. That might be a trigger. Might be a time of day. That might be a trigger because maybe the news is on at 6 o'clock. I like to listen to the 6 o'clock news. So all of our habits start with a trigger. So that's the T. The R is routine. Then something automatically follows the trigger. So if I see that person that I don't like, the routine might be a story about why I don't like that person, why I find them stressful. If it's the time, I might get my phone out and open the app where I listen to the 6 o'clock news. If my phone buzzes or I hear my phone ping, then I might pick up my phone and check it, and so on and so forth. So we've got the trigger, then the routine, and what we need to understand. So the AI in TRAIT is ape brain incentive. The reason that you engage in the behavior is because your ape brain is incentivized to do so. So the ape brain stands for alive, perceived energy, or ape stands for alive, perceived energy. So these are the core drivers of our most fundamental behaviors. So the chances are, well, not the chances are, the reason that you engage in any given routine is because your ape brain finds it rewarding. Sometimes those rewards are counterintuitive, like to worry and beat yourself up. Why is that rewarding for your ape brain? It's because your ape brain is reminding you there's a threat, there's a problem, there's a worry, and it's doing its job as a kind of a threat detection device. When you go into the coffee shop, you're feeling a bit hungry and you get presented with a chocolate chip muffin. You find yourself, before you know it, it's in your mouth, even though you've promised yourself you won't do that. You won't eat the chocolate chip muffin today. The reward system for the ape brain is that it's fast energy, and it's trying to get as much fast energy on board as possible. So there's always a limbic system reason for why we do what we do, and if we understand that, it's going to be easier to create new routines that stick and that we habitualize. And the final T in the TRAIT loop is training. So just the understanding of neuroplasticity, and the more we practice something, the more automatic it becomes. So that's TRAIT: trigger, routine, ape incentive, and then training.
Yeah, I think the trait habit loop in the habit mechanic is a fascinating piece of reading, and so engaging and so useful. That understanding, that analysis alone is so helpful. Or I found it so helpful in explaining so much about my own behavior, and I'm sure many people feel the same. In the book, Jon, you state like numerous examples of how that would function in practical terms. I know you just took us through the one or two examples there, specifically the coffee shop example, as we call it, but it might be something a bit less tangible, like receiving a negative email or something. That works in the same way, doesn't it?
Yeah, so the email could be a trigger. In fact, just seeing the person's name in the email is from this person is a trigger, and the routine, as soon as I think about that person, is this story in my head about why I don't like them, why they stress me out. And again, the ape incentive for doing that is that it's your
brain doing its job and reminding you of threats, problems. In this case, it's social status, threats, problems connected to the P in the 8 brain. And then the more you practice that, the better you get at it.
Yeah. Okay. Now moving on through the chapter, you present exercises to help us analyze our habits. We can talk about that maybe in due course. But you also have coined the term in this chapter. I know we've spoken about this on previous podcasts and on previous live sessions, and many people listening will be familiar. But you introduce super habits, and I think it's useful to just remind people how these work, what they can do for you. And I know in your own specific example, you cite your morning run as a super habit. That's not to say you need to exercise. Everybody needs to do running, but it's nevertheless foundational for you in your day and what you want to achieve.
Yeah, so becoming a habit mechanic, or in becoming a habit mechanic, we go on a journey of developing our habit mechanic intelligence. And part of that journey is to understand our habits in a more helpful way. And there are tools in what we call habit metric tools in chapter 17 that allow you to start analysing your habits. We have the in-depth habit reflection tool and we have the helpful habit reflection tool. And these are the starting point for understanding what I call destructive habits and super habits. So what we're trying to do is destroy more destructive habits and build more super habits. And destructive habits are disproportionately negative, have a disproportionately negative effect on us. So it might be, one example of a destructive habit is something like, I finish work late, and when I finish work late, I'm really hungry, so I eat too much. And because I eat too much, I can't sleep properly. And because I can't sleep properly, I feel groggy the next day and unproductive, and I end up finishing work late again. And you see how that's a big negative cycle, all started by the fact that you finish work late. So that's the destructive habit. Another one might be, I'm feeling really stressed. There might be, maybe that's not a great example actually. Let me give something more tangible. So it might be I have a glass of wine on a Friday night, but because I'm really stressed, I end up having a bottle and then maybe even more than that. So I don't sleep very well on Friday night, which means that my brain doesn't recover properly, which might mean that I engage in some other helpful behaviours at the weekend, which means that I don't really rest and recover at the weekend, which means I start Monday morning again not feeling great, and so on and so forth. So it's just one thing that we do that triggers all this other unhelpful stuff, and we get kind of stuck in this loop. Whereas super habits, another example of a super habit for me is writing or doing a piece of what we call focus reflection at the end of each day, which is a minimal. I do a 3-to-1. So at the end of the working day, I do a 3-to-1 written reflection. And by doing that, it helps me to process the stress from the day. It helps me to start to switch off and reduce my activation levels. It helps me to sleep better. And because I sleep better, then I feel better in the morning, more prepared, and more, fresher and ready to go again, etc. So destructive habits have a disproportionately negative effect, and super habits have a disproportionately positive effect. Yeah, in chapter 17, I list some of my super habits.
Yeah, I think I'd just like to read a little bit from chapter 17, because we just spoke. Thank you for that explanation of super habits and destructive habits. But I just flagged up one of your super habits. I think you share this quite readily. Is your morning run. Just want to be absolutely explicit. We're not saying to people that long distance running or any sort of running is component. It's the exercise, and correct me if I'm wrong, John, here. It's the exercise you do, which has an effect in your brain, neurobiological effect, as you would put it. It activates your brain, which means it's easier to focus and think clearly for you and be productive, which in turn triggers healthy eating habits. And that contributes to making you allowing you to have better sleep, which helps you manage your weight. So it's that compounding positive effect.
Yeah, it's a compounding positive effect. And, when, like any new habit, when you first start to build it, it's not easy to do. It's difficult to do. And that's why we need to be able to access what we call our 25-hour brain, our high charge brain, so that we can move beyond knowing that going for a run in the morning or doing some exercise in the morning is probably a good idea, to actually habitualizing it. That's the key.
Yeah, and again, I know I seem rather desperate, but I just don't want people to think they have to go out in a cold morning running. Although that would be a great thing. I mean, yeah, it's the movement, it's that prompts the release of very helpful brain chemicals that you're explaining to us. I mean, I couldn't run in the morning if my life depended on it, but I could probably go for a vigorous walk. So that would have the same effect. Just to drill down into this in microcosm.
Yeah, neurobiologically, it's going to have a similar effect. So we're looking to release some BDNF into our brain, some noradrenaline, some dopamine. I like to tackle my most complex work in the morning. So when I sit at my desk, I want to be at the right activation level, and going for the run does that, and it just saves me so much time. We talk about our program as a minimal will give you an extra 20 hours of high charge, high impact work per month. Just going for my run every morning saves me hours each day, because I know when I don't, and I sometimes don't, maybe I'm tired and I'm trying to have a slightly different day, and I say, instead of going for the run, I might go for have a bath instead or something. And I just can't do the same level of work that I do. So this is real. It's absolutely real. So powerful. But your super habits will be different to mine. So you've got to go on that journey and uncover them.
Yeah. Personal research is what you always very, very helpfully emphasize, John. And in this chapter 2, there's a major piece of personal research, if I could put it that way, the helpful habits reflection exercise, which we'll go on to in a moment. But I just wanted to take you back to this positive compounding effect, if you like, as we've coined it on this talk. And I know, as I say, just briefly, you've been working now, you're starting to work with people to help them do more high impact work every day, every month, and every year. And you can put a figure on that, which I think is absolutely fascinating. You can give people a tangible outcome.
If you want to fulfill your potential or help other people fulfill their potential so you can feel great and get the rewards and respect you deserve, then I want to give you a free physical copy of my new best-selling book, Because You Deserve to Know the Truth. The most important things for fulfilling your potential are not tips, tricks, hacks, therapy, coaching, meditation, breathwork, goal setting, journaling, or finding your why. I know it sounds irrational because we're so used to hearing about using these things to help us fulfill our potential. But these approaches are outdated and ineffective, and they are based on a big lie.
To find out more and get your free physical copy of Dr. Jon Finn's best-selling book, The Habit Mechanic, go to tougherminds.co.uk.
Yeah, so that the crux of the work that we're doing to help people, it's helping them to do more of the high impact work. But as I was saying with the Michael Phelps example, high impact work and doing what we call building ice sculptures isn't just something that you do at work, like creating a new product or creating a new presentation or a new marketing campaign or writing a new report.
it's also the work you do on yourself, like building better sleep habits, building better exercise habits, building better stress management habits, building better habits to become a leader. High impact work is what moves you from knowing what you want to do to automating it. And that means we need to use our high charge brain. Yeah, and we've obviously worked with a lot of people over the years, thousands and thousands. And we know that even those people that say, yeah, I'm good, I'm nailing it, I use a lot of tools to help me, or they've learned a lot of skills to help them to be more focused and productive. And we teach them the habit mechanic method, almost overnight, saving another hour per day on doing an extra hour of high impact work per week. So even people that are really nailing it, we know that they can also do an extra 1 hour per day. So that's 5 hours per week. So that's 20 hours of extra high impact work per week. And then people on the other end of the continuum who are doing, virtually no high impact work, we know that we know we have the capacity, if we get the foundations right in terms of recharging our brain properly, that we can do about 5 hours of high impact work per day. So those people that are not doing hardly any, they can do an extra 80 hours of high impact work per month. When you add that up over the year, you've got a window there of between 240 hours of extra high impact work. And if my maths is correct, 960 hours. So yeah, these are seismic differences. And I think it moves us beyond feeling better and doing better. It gives us something really tangible to get our teeth into.
Yeah, it's really quite jaw-dropping when you think about it in those terms, Jon. The positive implications of what you're saying there. As I say, in this chapter 17 of the Habit Mechanic, a significant exercise that you introduce is a helpful habits reflection. I won't go through it in full length. It's in the book, of course, and you can, of course, use the Habit Mechanic University app. But just talk to us about what that achieves for us, the helpful habits reflection, and the way in which it helps us.
Yeah, well, it's an intelligent self-watching exercise. So all the tools that we use in the habit mechanic approach at the individual level, at the team level, at the leadership level, they're all based on a simple three-step process, which is intelligent self-watching, making an aim, and making a plan. And what the habit metric tools do is they help you to do intelligent self-watching. So they take out the hard work of having to think about what you need to think about, and it's just laid out for you in simple self-reflective statements that get you thinking about yourself in a different way. So the unhelpful habits reflection, I see it as like a warm-up exercise. Things like, do you give in to temptation? 10, I always do that. 1, I never do that. And just getting you thinking about yourself in a slightly different way. And the helpful habits reflection is very focused on the kind of habits we know are really key for people, like habits around managing stress or emotions or confidence or productivity or leadership or sleep, diet and exercise. So it allows you to do intelligent self-watching as to where you're already at. And then it encourages you to move on to step 2, which is creating a very specific aim of something you want to work on. So in the 3-step cycle of intelligent self-watching, making an aim, making a plan, which we call the SWAP cycle, self-watch, aim, plan, SWAP, it's getting you to do the intelligent self-watching and the planning, the aim part, specific aim.
Yeah, and you always say people when you always say to people who perhaps are unsure about making a start, just give it your best. Just respond spontaneously, if you like. Just complete these exercises quickly and without overthinking it. Would that be reasonable guidance to give people?
Yeah, because these are evergreen tools that we use to develop ourselves and learn about ourselves. So we don't just do them once. The answers are not set in stone. It's just about, it's like, to use a silly example, watching David Beckham back when he used to play football, taking a free kick, and then someone asking you, can you do the same? Can you curl the ball in the top right hand corner? And some people would just sort of stare at the ball and think, no, there's no way I can do that. I can't do that. Rather than just having a go and seeing where they're at, basically. And wherever you're at is wherever you're at. And with the right type of practice, you'll get better. Might never get to where David Beckham gets to, but you're going to get better at it. So taking these tests are like that. The more you take them, the better you'll get, the more you'll understand yourself. The book and the app, they're like coaches, and they're designed to guide you through a learning process about yourself. Yeah, so the key is don't overthink it. Just have a go and see where you land, and you'll do it again in another few weeks, and then again in a few weeks after that.
Yeah, and that goes as well, obviously, for so many of the tools and the habit metric tools that you present people with in the Habit Mechanic book and the Habit Mechanic University app. Chapter 17 then, a pivotal chapter, I think, in the Habit Mechanic book. And you introduce also the idea that people have now this understanding of the trait habit loop, which is pivotal to how you bring to bear your scientific insight in such a practical way, and then also how to start reflecting and start intelligently self-watching so that they can begin to build more helpful habits. Is this, would you say, a key building block in the book, John?
Yes, because if we want to change our behavior, it's really helpful to know the mechanics of how it works. And actually what we're trying to do is replace that routine. So we're often going to be surrounded by similar triggers. So we're trying to create new routines. Or where we can, we're trying to create new triggers and new routines. So, and then what we do later on, and we'll talk about this in chapter 18, is we talk about the factors that actually drive those 4 components. We call them 9 action factors, and that's behavioral science. We hear behavioral science quite a lot. Behavioral science this, behavioral science that. We really break that down in a practical way, and this is the start of that process, so we can really understand the mechanics of it. This is the idea that there's an explanation for why we do what we do, and if we understand the root causes of why we do what we do, we've got a much better chance of managing and changing our behavior so that it works better for us, better for our health and our happiness, and us being at our best.
If you want to fulfill your potential or help other people fulfill their potential so you can feel great and get the rewards and respect you deserve, then I want to give you a free physical copy of my new best-selling book, Because You Deserve to Know the Truth. The most important things for fulfilling your potential are not tips, tricks, hacks, therapy, coaching, meditation, breathwork, goal setting, journaling, or finding your why. I know it sounds irrational because we're so used to hearing about using these things to help us fulfill our potential. But these approaches are outdated and ineffective, and they are based on a big lie.
To find out more and get your free physical copy of Dr. Jon Finn's best-selling book, The Habit Mechanic, go to tougherminds.co.uk.
Thanks for listening to the Habit Mechanic podcast. If you liked it, please subscribe and tell someone else about one of the ideas or insights that you found most interesting.